Welcome back. As we mentioned earlier in our intro, that Egypt is entering a new phase of electronic industrialization. And Dr. Amr Wali, Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Dr. Naveen Gema, Minister of Trade and Industry, and Lieutenant General Abdelmenem El-Terras, Chairman of the Arab Organization for Industrialization, they all witnessed the inauguration of production lines for co-manufacturing devices, tablets and laptops, according to the standards of the fourth industrial revolution. Of course, this is a milestone in the history of Egypt. And to shed more light on this issue, we're mostly delighted to be having with us here live in the studio Engineer Mustafa Wali. He is a member of the Egyptian European Council. Good morning, Engineer Wali. Let's celebrate together this milestone by the Egyptian government and this very courageous decision to continue its course of development for sustainable development vision in general, and to be able to manufacture the electronics or establish a foundation for electronic industry here in Egypt. And we're starting off with laptops and all these devices, tablets and all these devices. How do you see that step?
First of all, good morning. Thank you for having me.
My real pleasure.
It's actually a very important milestone, really, because we are getting into a very sophisticated industry and very promising one. And by time, it will be very lucrative business in general, whether for manufacturing or trading or whatever will come through it. It's true that this coincides with the fourth generation of industrial revolutions, if you say. And we are lucky enough and we are keen enough, and it's noticeable, and I am very pleased to notice this myself, living it in a way or another since I was working for the Federation of Egyptian Industries by inauguration and establishing that time at 2001 the Chamber of ICT, Information and Communication Technology, which have So the minister himself, Mr. Dr. Amr Talat, he is the Minister of Information and Communication Technology. Well, if we look directly to what is behind the industry, this is a very sophisticated industry. In itself requires the highest qualification of human being, I mean, educational-wise, experience-wise, and meanwhile also the highest technological hardware of technology. I mean, when it comes to the machinery and you know, production lines and everything related to this. If we have a look, or now we see what's going on, there is a big war. I mean, it's not a war, it's kind of competition to the toughest limit between China and America and USA. I mean, between China and the West in general. In this specific aspect, when it comes, we will find that information technology, and it's both sides, I mean, the hardware and software, is the main field for competition and the tough competition and the most affecting element of our modern life now in general, in the whole world. That's introduction is very important, and of course we are witnessing this, we will cope with this. First, congratulations for those who are who had took the decision and launched this very big project. And it's very fascinating because, as you may know, that the partners in this are the government and then a very big and very well established industrial organization. That's AOI, Arab Organization Organization Industry, and also, of course, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and of course, meanwhile, it should be there, the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. The launching and the start of it will cope and will deliver what is needed as a product, badly needed, because I'm very happy. Of course, there could be a lot of discussion about this issue of how to have for the students, I mean, starting from the age of preparatory schools, primary schools, to be acquainted with the latest in educational means, which is the laptop and the tablet.
Yes, because they're already coping with the momentum,
Yes.
and they're coping
Yes.
with the, but also talking about taking Egypt to that a whole new level of electronic industrialization is completely one of the smartest decisions taken by the Egyptian administration regarding soft power. When Egypt is witnessing very dangerous confrontations and challenges from the outside. Of course, and we all know that, different ones from different sides. And mentioning the soft power and mentioning the challenges that Egypt is taking, another smart issue, another historic decision that was taken, and a historic move that was taken by the first Egyptian president, the visit to Djibouti. Earlier, that was taken by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as the first president to visit Djibouti and establish and consolidate the historic relation with Djiboutian nation and its people and its president, and taking that important summit that was taken between him and President Omar Gila. How do you see the geopolitical importance of that visit by the president?
Well, first of all, we cannot take this issue out of the main context, since President Sisi was in his post, leading the Egyptian people in a very tough time, that he was so keen to get closer and deeper with Africa at large. And really, I was following this. A lot of people was following this. You can see just in the last few 3-4 years, when we took the summit, we were the head of the African Union for the periodical time, and within the time where the president was Egypt was the president of this AU session, there were 2 or 3 very important summits across the world, in Japan, in China, and also in France, to tackle the issues of Africa, and devoting a lot of time, a lot of effort, to help Africa at large, being African country. So this is the main context, which actually is, we need to have it, as a trend in our policy. Africa is our continent, and we are the northern part of it, but we have our depth, we have our extension to work and to develop relation with Africa. To come specifically for this visit, I wouldn't find it strange. It's part of what Egypt is facing now, and what part of its mission. The Egyptian government, headed by the president himself, how to care for everything which will affect the safety and security of Egypt. So, the borders and the extension of the borders, to take, or to include some areas which could have some role for anything if affecting Egypt directly. And we know what's going on. So and everything is announced, our situation concerning what we have to care for our safety and our life. That's what we are talking about in this case. So it is not just because a reaction for the situation, but in general, such attitude or such approach is essential and is welcome, and it should be always there, and it is there. The only thing that it's coincide to be the first official visit by a president of Egypt to Djibouti. And everybody have seen it, and it was announced, and it's clear, and the press conference was aired,
it was
and
very
everybody
impressive, and there were
and
very
everybody
important
noticed
takes
it,
by the president.
and the discourse and the attitude and the stance of the Egyptian government and the Egyptian president, Mr. Sisi, is the same everywhere in his direct talks with the world, with the leaders of the world, in all his conferences or press conference or dealing with people. So the emphasis of this, it's geopolitical, but it's part also of economy, because there a lot can be done with Africa.
Of course, and the president in the summit...
and the Horn area is very important, you know. It's the entrance to the Red Sea.
Of course, he talked about the safety and the securing the zone of the Red Sea as because of its importance, geopolitical importance. And he also talked about establishing a zone also there to be able to open the Djiboutian market for the Egyptian industry, speaking economically.
Look, it's a logistic zone.
Of course,
yes.
Yes. Yeah. He talked about establishing markets or in manufacturing special products and exporting products to Djibouti and establishing an Egyptian hospital. And he talked about very important initiatives taken inside Djibouti.
Yes. Of course, all this actually will, at the end, will be for the benefit of both countries. And in general, it's the benefit of Egypt and African countries. Because, for example, we have a lot we can do with Africa. This is also out of my experience when I was in the Federation and also dealing that sometimes the problem with Africa is that we don't have the access where our goods can go there in a very good price because of the transportation and such problems, you know. When you have a setup like this, for example, at the Horn in this case, then you are covering a very big important part of East Africa. And also it's so close, and it's on the Red Sea, for example, when we talk about Djibouti. And also in the West, we can do far west of Africa, we can have like this. So the potential of doing business and good business with Africa based on understanding and brotherly relations and friendly relations is very, very promising. The only thing is that let's get things, you know, settled. First of all, to get rid of this COVID-19 and also, you know, settling the disputes between African countries, you know, not only between Egypt and Ethiopia or whatever. No, it's to settle the real problems of Africa, where the West and the first world is obliged to help Africa. And this is what President Sisi was just recently doing in the summit in France.
Exactly. During the press conference that was held with President Omar Gira, the President Sisi emphasized or talked about precisely about different points of cooperation, like military cooperation, health cooperation. He talked about health with great concern, and also he talked about economic cooperation, maritime cooperation. Which reflects, what does that reflect as a message?
It reflects a keen interest of win-win situation, you know, the cooperation between brotherly countries, you know, friendly countries. That's how to materialize for the benefit of the people of both countries. That's actually simply, that's the explanation of it. Is it for the mutual interest? Yes, for the mutual interest. Is it for peace and security? Yes, it is for peace and security.
And for the welfare of brotherly African countries also.
Exactly, yes.
He also talked about a program, a training program for workforce to be able to enable them for the market, which is also a great sense of empowerment and enforcement. For the continent. He never mentioned Djibouti only, but the rest of the Nile Basin countries.
You know something, it's long history in this issue of, you know, cooperation in the workforce and training and, you know, capacity buildings, because, you know, if you know that it goes for generations actually, decades, where there is a very big department in the foreign ministry for cooperation with Africa for this specific objective of, you know, training and you know, upgrading the capacities of the Egyptian, of the African countries through a very well-established program. Even Egypt was funding it, you know. So it's part of it. And actually this always, you know, what can be felt by the people, directly by the people.
Exactly.
And you know, for example, the conference of African youth, you see how many African youth represented for
Even
many...
the presidential program, they included
Yes, of
African
course,
youth,
and
it's
that's-
the
that's it.
PLP and
That's it.
APLP. Also, going back to the Djiboutian visit, the historical Djiboutian visit, President Abdel Fattah Sisi talked about the common challenges that are facing the whole continent, not only Djibouti and Egypt, but the whole continent, and talked in specific about the Egyptian experience and how successful is it, making the Egyptians proud of what they have reached. Given the fact that Egypt has taken a lead front in fighting terrorism and succeeded in that, and was chosen by the United Nations to lead one of the the most important committees for confronting terrorism inside the Security Council, President Abdel Fattah Sisi talked inside the summit about borrowing the Egyptian experience in fighting terrorism when it comes to Djibouti and the challenges that Djibouti is facing. If you like to elaborate.
Now, it's the most important and definite fact that no progress, no development without peace. I mean, regionally and locally. And Africa has suffered much of this. And we got our share of this. We managed to of course, we are a big country, we know what we are doing. And we had our fight with terrorism, and it's successful, and always will be successful. Africa was troubled by this, you know, along the history, sometimes off and on. But right now, they know, everybody knows now, those who are keen about the progress of their countries, that terrorism prosper and you know, have its roots when there is turbulence and there is unrest. I mean, political, or, you know, through even, you know, disputes with other neighbors or countries, neighbor countries in Africa. We have a lot of stories. So to have a big picture about how to get peace in the troubled areas in Africa will help the Africans themselves. If they believe in this, it will be there. The only thing is that how those who can help, and Egypt is one of them, if not the biggest of them, to help it, to give its experience. That's, I look at it this way. The prospects should cover this area, as you mentioned, you know, in general. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's go back to Egypt's a very important take of manufacturing electronic devices and giving the Egyptian brand and giving us pride with it. Could you shed more light on that particular project or plan to start co-manufacturing electronic devices? Is it going to be a co-manufacture with other international industries, and how is it going to take place?
Well, the details of this industry is really sophisticated and multiple, and the level of it is really highly, and sometimes is so restricted to certain areas. I mean, when it comes to capacity of knowledge and education. In general, there is nobody who's manufacturing from A to Z. Now, you see how the world now, you know, we have this long chain, you know, supply chain. There is a supply chain now in the world for every item, for every end product. In this case, the more you have localization, this is the secret word, you know, localization. Whether the following, whether the material or the semi-product, which is a part of the integrated system, you want to have it as an end product, the big product itself, for example, the laptop or the tablet. So as much as you can afford locally, either manufacturing from a semi product or half product to a final product, or you can have it to the best price with the best cost so that you can compete when you have your final product. And the most important thing, facilities to have assembling, which is very sophisticated in this case when you talk electronics items.
Of course.
It's very sophisticated and very costly. So when you have such facility, that is in itself, I mean assembling facility, in itself is an asset. So whatever is a local content, the percentage of local content from the final product, whatever it is, it's good to be there, because by time you can increase your local content. We have similar cases in other industries for other products, but in this case, the more we have localization, the more we can compete. Look at the market, our market. I'll give you just one figure. Tablets and will be directly needed. The most important sector who needs it, now we know after this COVID and after this distance learning or online learning, the tablet is the most essential thing, isn't? That's it.
Of course.
So right now, our population, when it comes up to the secondary schools, we are about 24 million, mashallah, students, pupils and students.
Are we already included the tablet in the educational process?
And it is an essential now.
Of course.
And it's coming an essential. So at least we have a market for ourselves. We have a demand. So whatever we will reduce, whatever the product, our product, national product in this issue, will be in less cost, even by small percentage than buying it for hard currency. That's saving in itself. Plus you are indigenizing, localizing the industry. That's important. Just this figure shows you how, but look also for Africa and the demand for Africa.
This is the smartest step. But what about quality?
Yeah.
How is it going to be managed?
Quality is a big issue. But right now, quality assurance and quality systems are applicable and easy to apply once you are familiar with the business. And I'm sure that the people who are taking care of such projects and other projects, by the way, are the highly qualified, and they know what they are doing. I trust them. I am proud that I know most of them went through life, and and with familiarization, I was following up. That's great. We have the human capital, very qualified,
very precious,
very precious and very highly qualified human capital. Let's increase it. Let's devote more effort to have more of them.
How can such move help in localizing and installing electronic industries?
As I was telling you, it depends upon the demand of the requirement or the parts required. So as much as you can, according to the standard specification, manufacture an integrated part or a small part of the final product, it's good for you. That's it. You start with it, and it goes like that. And this happened in many Asian countries, by the way. They started, of course, buying and then making reverse engineering, and they managed to have it,
and now they're taking the lead.
Yes, yes.
But from that step, that is going to take Egypt to another step, which is attracting more investments in that field, and how that would help in building and creating national calibers. I mean, domestic calibers in the field of designing and manufacturing and creating and excelling. How are we going to be able to train and qualify our national calibers to do so?
Well, when it comes to the software, which is how training people, and education first, and high education for this kind of business. I mean, ICT business in general. I find that we are doing well. If you look at the figures, of those who are joining the institution and the universities, sections of electronics and electronic engineering, and also training in the facilities, for some institutions, some ministries. There is a core. You can work on it now. The only thing is that to give them the chance to have the best training, first education, the best education available, and then training. And now we see we have this Japanese, for example, universities and Japanese style of learning and education. And Japan is a very flag. It's a flag country in this business. I mean, IT business.
It's a very popular experience also, and very successful one. But in the sense of creating more job opportunities and enforcing the workforce inside Egypt, is it going to make a difference? That particular step?
Well, sometimes when you talk about creating job opportunities. It depends upon what kind of the job, what the kind of the job, what's the requirements needed for the job. In this business at large, I mean the business of manufacturing sophisticated items, ICT items. First, technology, to have the technology, that's very important to have it. You get it first, and then you develop it. You can even make it, you can put some advancement for this technology. The people is essential part of it, to handle at least, to handle the normal manufacturing cycle. So you need specific people to be trained. So if we talk about how much or how many the job opportunities to be created, let's be frank. I'm taking this specific so that no confusion. It's enough to have a setup, 2-3 setup, to have the reputation of having a business of hundreds of millions. And there could be only few setups, with limited people, number of people, due to the type and the status of the product itself, which you are producing. So to answer that job opportunities, at least the type of opportunities you are creating in this area is very sophisticated and very competitive also across the world.
Tell us more about the role of manufacturing laptops and tablets when it comes to development, the educational system in Egypt.
Yeah. You are increasing the tools and the availability to have online learning, online education with all its merits. Simple as that.
Right. On that very optimistic note, Engineer Mustafa Wali, you are a member of the Egyptian European Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for coming over to the breakfast show for this morning, and you have a beautiful day.
Thank you very much.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
And we're going to go to a short break, and we'll come to continue the breakfast show, so stay with us.